Following a successful midterm election, it appears President Joe Biden's star may be shining a little brighter. According to reporting by the New York Times, Democrats like Congressman Henry Cuellar and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal have said they would support another Biden presidential run. Younger Democrats have also shifted from looking at potential job opportunities to a Biden re-election bid.
But do the American people feel the same way? According to a poll conducted by CNN and SSRS, 59% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents would like to see someone other than Joe Biden at the top of the ticket in 2024. Joining us now to unpack all this is author, activist, and former Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson. Marianne, it's wonderful to have you back.
Oh, it's always good to be with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Joe Biden obviously had a bit of a win in these midterms. I think the performance of the Democrats was much better than anticipated by a lot of pundits, at least, if not the polls. And that's being attributed somewhat to political choices Joe Biden has made. What do you think about his future in the party, his future leadership, what his strengths have been and where he should improve?
Well, I certainly want to give the president credit where credit is due, and he did defeat Trump in 2020, and that's a very big deal. But I think the big win in the midterms was the American people, stepping in. And remember what the opponents were in the midterm elections. What the American people said no to were a bunch of election deniers, some people who were so outside the box of anything that we should consider respectful of our democracy. I think the fact that the president was obviously the right man for 2020. That's a very different situation than what we're going to be confronted with in 2024. And no, I don't think that the idea that we should just anoint Joe Biden and just assume that he's the guy for 2024 is a good idea at all.
Well, I don't have high expectations from a conservative Democrat like Henry Cuellar. I expect him to endorse Joe Biden. But what do you make of someone like Pramila Jayapal, who is poised as a progressive leader of sorts, saying at this juncture that she will support a Biden 2024 run? Are you surprised and or disappointed by that?
I don't know if I'm surprised at this point, given the fact that the progressives didn't even support Nina Turner, that the progressives didn't even make a peep when Hakeem Jeffries just took the baton from Nancy Pelosi in order to perpetuate that same kind of corporatist thinking. So I can't say that I'm surprised at this point, but of course I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed at the lack of choice that the Democrats are allowing. The point of a political party is to facilitate democracy, not suppress democracy, not make it so that nobody can say anything other than their pre-prescribed agenda. And that's what's happening right now, isn't it? With changing the primary schedule, making it so that Joe Biden can just stride into South Carolina, where he knows he has James Clyburn and he knows he has Jamie Harrison and he knows he did well last time. All of this is designed in order to suppress any idea of a progressive challenge or any challenge. I think it's bad for democracy. I think it increases the distrust that many people, particularly young people, have in the Democratic Party. And I think we should just start right now calling foul so that they don't think they can continue with this and everybody's just going to go, oh, okay.
And beyond 2024, frankly, because I think there's, in my view, I think there's going to be a low chance that Joe Biden faces a serious opposition in 2024. But beyond that, if he tries to, anoint Kamala Harris as his personal successor, will the changing primary field be designed to make her have an easier kind of stroll to the nomination when at that point you really could have the opportunity to have a progressive challenger?
It's all a football game to these people. This is exactly what George Washington warned us about, becoming more about the party, more about the faction than about America. We should be talking about what's happening in this country. We should be talking about the fact that whether it's Joe Biden or any of the other corporatist Democrats, all we're talking about is staying within the box of a neoliberal establishment. Yes, the president has done some good things, but all within the box. It's the highest survivability for the majority of people. Let's talk about what's really going on in this country. If you put together the poor, the near poor, and the afraid of becoming poor, you have a third of the American people You still have locked in as a feature, not as a bug, to this neoliberal establishment, an income disparity, the likes of which we have not seen in 100 years. That's what needs to be challenged. It's not whether we challenge Biden or whether we challenge Kamala Harris. We must challenge the entire system. We must challenge the entire system that makes a free market more important than free people. Remember, FDR said, a necessitous man is not a free man. The fact that there are 600,000 people who are homeless, the fact that there are still tens of millions of people who do not have health insurance. So yes, Joe Biden has made some things easier. He has alleviated some stress, all of which is to be appreciated. But we need more than the alleviation of stress. We need to challenge the underlying, particularly corporate forces that make the return of that stress always inevitable. We need genuine economic reform, fundamental economic reform, such as you get from universal health care, such as you get from free college. If the Democratic Party is not a channel for that conversation, then the Democratic Party has completely strayed from its traditional roots of genuine advocacy for the working people, for the average person in America. And I don't care what someone I respect as a person, Pramila Jayapal, but what are these people doing going along with the very system that I thought they were in Washington to disrupt? I mean, and if they won't disrupt it, the American people have to disrupt it. And that's what I think there's a hunger for.
Well, I think that's right. Some people will look to say, to see what happened to Bernie in 2016 and 2020. I interviewed a couple of months ago Jim Zogby on the DNC committee, where he just tried to have a vote on whether or not they should get dark money out of Democratic Party primaries. You mentioned the Congressional Progressive Caucus's choice to endorse Shontel Brown over Nina Turner and all the dark money that funneled into that race and a number of other races that featured progressive candidates in the Democratic Party. Couldn't even get a vote on it, Zogby says. Couldn't even get a vote on it. So that being the case, some people look at the Democratic Party and they say, there's no hope here. We can't even get something basic like reforming our own primaries. You saw the full force of the Democratic Party machine leveraged against Bernie Sanders in a way that they seem to not even have an appetite for with respect to Donald Trump. What do you say to folks who are hopeful about a potential progressive challenger to Joe Biden in 2024, or as Robbie was looking to potential Harris crowning in 2028?
We need to disrupt the corrupt, and everybody needs to decide for themselves the best way that they participate in that disruption. For some people, it will be third-party involvement. For some people, it will be staying within the Democratic Party and working there. I don't think there's a right answer. There's the way that each person feels that they can best serve.
And Marianne Williamson, as people are looking at that, they're wondering, even if they would like for there to be a challenger, as progressives like Pramila Jayapal continue to disappoint on some level, and as squad members continue to demonstrate that they seem to be pretty willing to work within the context of the party and the system as it is. Many people look to the recent vote on the rail strike as an example of that. They don't see a lot of candidates. People have looked to you and raised the question of whether you might run. What is your optimism about the potential field of prospective progressive challengers that can actually carry this mantle in 2024?
Well, having run myself, I understand how vicious that machine can become. I understand that they have no patience with anyone who doesn't fall in line with their pre-prescribed agenda. I know what they will do to you if you paint outside the lines. But we must paint outside the lines. This generation has to find its courage. We must disrupt the neoliberal agenda that has taken this country for the last 40+ years into a place where democracy itself is under an assault. The very idea of all men created equal, the very idea that God gave all men inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is undercut, even nullified, by a system in which it is a feature, not a bug, that the rich have an easier time becoming richer and everybody else has a harder time even making it at all. So, yeah, I'm doing what I think everyone I know is doing. Making that decision, and it is time to make that decision. How can I best serve? How can I help articulate an alternative to the current agenda? And how can I best help effectuate it? And I will be making that decision very shortly, I think.
Well, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I'm always honored to be here. Thank you.
And we'll be back with more Rising right after these messages.